His body tumbled from a garbage truck into a landfill.
So we're here to talk about the death of former Pentagon official John Wheeler.
The garbage truck dumped its contents into a Delaware landfill, and out fell a dead body.
This surveillance video backtracking John Wheeler's movements makes his death even more mysterious.
One winter morning, workers at a landfill went about their daily routine. All seemed normal until the limp body of an older Caucasian male fell out of the back of one of the garbage trucks. The man's body was badly bruised and his head swollen from whatever trauma he suffered before being left to rot on a trash heap. The man was soon identified as Jack Wheeler, a wealthy and highly respected businessman with many governmental connections. What led to Jack's brutal death? Was he robbed? Perhaps in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or was he the target of professional assassins? It was December 31st, 2010, New Year's Eve morning, when Jack's body was discovered at the Cherry Island landfill in Wilmington, Delaware. Landfill attendants called 911 right away. Detective Michael Lawson came to the site to investigate the body. He noticed the man was wearing a white t-shirt, black pants, and a Rolex. Nothing out of the ordinary. But then he spotted an unusual gold ring on his finger. It looked like a graduation ring, but he never saw one like that before. It turned out to be a West Point Military Academy ring from the class of 1966. West Point is well known for having an 11% acceptance rate. For a person to qualify, they must prove to have strong academic skills, leadership potential, and intend to pursue a military career. If this man was a graduate from West Point, Detective Lawson knew he was not dealing with a typical homicide case. On the body, Detective Lawson found identification showing the man to be John Parsons Wheeler III, born December 14, 1944. John Parsons Wheeler III, known as Jack by friends and family, was no ordinary man. He was a businessman with ties to multiple branches of the government, including the Pentagon. Jack held many positions throughout his career in the military, law, consultancy, and cybersecurity. His most treasured accomplishment was his role in building the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, which opened in 1982. This meant a lot to Jack since he was one of very few men from his graduation class who survived the Vietnam War. Less known facts about Jack were his personal struggles. Jack suffered from depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and bipolar disorder. Because of his bipolar disorder, Jack had occasional episodes where he would become consumed by random intense drives to accomplish multiple tasks simultaneously, talk rapidly, and become very restless. The discovery of Jack's body in such a bizarre location immediately set off alarm bells. Though Jack had mental health struggles, that was not the first thought in his family's minds. They immediately suspected foul play. When Jack's wife Catherine viewed the body, she was only allowed to view his head because his body was badly damaged. Because Catherine had to identify him, they couldn't hide the damage on his face. Staring down at the swollen face of her deceased husband, Catherine struggled to accept the horrors of her new reality. She just spoke to her husband 2 days ago. Her mind couldn't accept the fact he was gone forever. The landfill was immediately sealed off so the police could conduct a thorough investigation. It was a struggle to identify potential evidence from the mountains of trash, but they did their best to search for anything that seemed remotely related to Jack's murder. Sadly, they came up empty-handed. Investigators discovered that Jack had a home only 6 miles away in Newcastle, Delaware. So they called the Newcastle City Police Department, who happened to have a team heading over to Jack's house at the same time to investigate a potential robbery. They had received a call from Robert Dill, Jack's next-door neighbour, who kept an eye on the home for Jack whenever he was away. Just the day before, Robert was outside talking to a neighbour when he noticed the second-floor window of Jack's home was left open. He knew Jack was currently staying at the house, but he wasn't home at that moment, and it wasn't like Jack to leave a window open when he wasn't there. Robert decided to check the house to make sure everything was okay. As he approached the house, Robert found the door that led directly into the kitchen was half open. In the kitchen, Robert found spices thrown around the room, broken dishes in the sink, furniture and decor knocked over, and a white substance spilt on the floor with bare footprints smudged into it. On the counter, Robert spotted a can of Comet, so he assumed that must be the white powder on the floor. The rest of the house appeared to be fine. Though it clearly looked like a break-in that led to a scuffle in the kitchen, nothing appeared to be stolen or missing. Robert tried calling Jack and Catherine to let them know, but neither answered their phones. He decided to wait a day to see if either called him back, but they never did. So the following morning, he called the police. Investigators checked out the house and questioned all of Jack's neighbours. One neighbour said they heard a television playing really loudly in Jack's house a few days ago, but it didn't look like anyone was home. That was all they found out. Another interesting event happened near Jack's home in Delaware, where he stayed only when he was working. Just a few days earlier, on December 28th, someone had set off smoke bombs late at night at a nearby home that was under construction across the street from Jack's Newcastle house. When police inspected the property, they found Jack's cell phone. Come to find out, Jack was highly against the construction of that home and was doing everything in his power to prevent it from being built. He didn't think it was right that a private residence should be allowed on public property. Would Jack have gone so far as to place the smoke bombs on the property, or is it possible he was being set up? Police found no other evidence at the site besides the phone that belonged to Jack. With Jack's lifeless body found in a landfill, his house vandalised, and his phone found at a nearby construction site, the police had a massive investigation ahead of them.
ATF was involved, DEA was involved. We're talking at least 10 different agencies, federal, state, and local, running down every possible lead.
Even with such a large and well-equipped investigation team, there was a rising concern that the case would turn cold with their struggle to find leads. To understand what could have happened to Jack, investigators attempted to retrace his steps. What they found was a series of increasingly strange events. Jack made his way to Newcastle on the night of the 28th, after having spent the day working for Massachusetts Institute of Technology Research and Engineering Corporation, known as MITRE, in Washington, D.C. It was on this night that the smoke bomb incident happened at the nearby construction site around 11:30 p.m. Looking through Jack's emails from December 29th, it was discovered that he emailed MITRE around 9:30 a.m. about the break-in at his home. He said many items were stolen: his wallet, key fob, badge, briefcase, and cell phone, the same phone found at the home that was smoke bombed. It's understandable to let your employer know that you've been robbed, especially when work-related materials were among the things that were stolen. But why didn't Jack report it to the police? Why didn't he tell his wife? Around 6 p.m. on December 29th, Jack was spotted at the local pharmacy he regularly used. He was asking around to see if he could get a ride to Wilmington and found two men who were willing to drive him. From the footage, you can see Jack is walking with a mild limp, but he appears to be in a pleasant mood. Investigators believe Jack wanted to get to Wilmington because that was where he had left his car before leaving for New York to be with his family for Christmas. About 40 minutes later, Jack is seen at the Newcastle County Courthouse parking garage in Wilmington, but his car is nowhere to be found. Jack had a bad habit of forgetting where he would park his car.
He didn't have a good sense of direction. He had almost no sense of direction.
He also had extreme difficulties navigating and would get lost very easily.
Finding his way around was challenging for him. He was certainly directionally challenged.
Jack was notorious for coming home in a cab because he forgot where he parked his car again. While at the parking garage, Jack spoke with an employee. At this point, Jack's demeanour had changed dramatically. He appeared to be highly agitated, carrying one shoe in his left hand. He told the employee his parking ticket was inside his briefcase, but it had been stolen. On camera, Jack seemed paranoid, peeking around corners in the garage building as if he were being followed. Eventually, Jack walked out of the garage without his vehicle. He walked the streets for a while. One person said they bumped into Jack and he asked them for a ride to Philadelphia, but they declined. On December 30th, around 3:30 p.m, Jack was spotted in the basement of Nemours office building, an office complex in Wilmington, a 2-minute walk from the parking garage he was previously seen. As far as anyone knew, Jack had no reason to be at this building, but he ended up going there after failing to find his car or get a ride and spent the night in the basement, where Jack stayed for most of that day. Around 8:40 p.m, Jack was seen exiting the building wearing a black hoodie, a piece of clothing that he was never seen with before that moment. Employee lockers and a gym were located in the basement level of Nemours building. It's possible he picked it up somewhere while he was down there. On that night, it was around 30 degrees outside. It's not clear whether Jack had the hoodie to keep warm or to hide his face from a potential attacker. Cameras last caught him walking past Hotel DuPont, a 10-minute walk north of Nemours building. From the direction he was heading, Jack appeared to be going toward the high crime area of historic Rodney Square. The next morning, Jack's body showed up falling out of a dump truck that dropped its garbage load in the Wilmington landfill after filling up in Newark, Delaware. Newark is a good 25-minute drive southwest of Hotel DuPont. That would have taken Jack more than 4 hours to walk there, and the last time he was seen, he was heading in the opposite direction. When medical examiners performed the autopsy, they determined Jack's wounds were caused by blunt force trauma. Along with the bruising all over his body, a punctured lung, broken ribs, and bleeding from inside his skull. During the trauma, Jack also suffered a heart attack, which is what ended his life. Being tossed around in a dumpster at his age would definitely cause a lot of bruising, but not the extent of damage he received. If Jack was a victim of random mugging, they would have taken his Rolex, worth at least $20,000, the cash in his pocket, and the gold ring on his finger. As the investigation progressed, multiple theories about Jack's death began to emerge.
When we see this footage, we see that perhaps he was suffering from an organic brain problem. Maybe even his neighbors say they've never seen him like this. Was he poisoned? Did he have a brain tumor? Did he suffer from brain cancer and nobody even knew it?
Could his mental health struggles have led to his untimely death? Or did his work in cybersecurity cause him to be the victim of something much more disturbing? One belief was that his mental health had faded to the point he was suffering from the early stages of dementia. Since Jack had bipolar disorder, he was at a much higher risk of developing dementia. Dementia would explain many of the odd behaviours Jack suddenly experienced the day after arriving at his home in Newcastle, especially if he hadn't been able to take his medication. The last time Jack took his medicine may have been hours before leaving New York. With everything that happened on the 29th, there's a good chance he had not taken it at all that day. This could also explain why he stayed the night in Nemours' basement, stole a hoodie, and headed out into the dark, cold streets. It is believed Jack may have decided to spend the night inside a garbage bin to stay warm. Unfortunately, a garbage truck happened to pick him up before he could get out. According to the garbage truck drivers, they find homeless people sleeping in dumpsters pretty regularly.
When we spoke to the trash truck drivers, they told us that it was fairly common that people would go in there and actually sleep.
This could explain why he had a heart attack. However, most people see this as an easy-out explanation for a murder cover-up. At the time of his death, Jack was working as a cybersecurity consultant at a prominent defense contracting firm. MITRE Corporation is a non-profit organisation that works closely with the government to help solve complex problems and advance technology. They specialise in research, development and consulting services for various government agencies. It is believed that some of the projects he was working on, had they been completed, would have prevented Russia from interfering with the elections in 2016 and could keep Russia and China from attacking the United States power grid, which according to reports, they could easily do at any moment.
You know, I think this is what I think happened. I think my dad led a really wonderful life, and his life was filled with helping other people. And the things he did, the institutions and projects he worked on touched many more lives. And I think his own life, a couple months ago came to a tragic end. And that's what I think about happening. And, I hope I'll have a better answer for you, soon.
They will solve it. They have to solve it. There's no way they cannot solve it. It's just, it can't go unsolved.
Sadly, no one may ever know how Jack died or who was responsible. The death of Jack Wheeler remains unsolved till this day.